This is Eon Karis, and you're listening to Love, Sex, and the Hidden Agenda. This podcast was created with the sole intention to release toxic shame, to illuminate our shadow nature, and to expose the mysterious entities that feed off our most precious life force, our sexual energy. Let's dive in. Dun, 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 dun. Welcome, Keith Mitchel.
Aloha, namaste, buenos dias.
All the things. So good to have you here.
So glad to be here. So glad to be here.
We've been talking about doing this for a long time, and we're finally here.
In the mix, doing it. Yeah, putting that conscious conversation. We got to record this stuff. We got to put it down in the history book, in the cyberspace, so people can check in, tap into what this frequency looks like.
I know. So Keith and I have been having so many conversations in person, and funnily enough, we're in two different countries right now. we could only hit the record button when we were far away from each other, but I'm really happy to have Keith on the show today. He is a former NFL linebacker. He is a celebrity yogi and mindfulness coach and a tantric. And him and I have had some amazing conversations about love, sex, and the hidden agenda. And I really thought that we could take this time to allow other people to hear what we talk about and maybe frame it in a way, because there's so many things that I want to ask you and share with the audience, because I feel that you have a very unique approach to the topic of love and sex and power and tantra and relating. And yeah, I'm just excited to dive in. Yes. I've been taking notes as we've been talking over these months, and there's been a lot of things that have kind of like popped up, like, oh, I gotta ask him that, I gotta ask him that. So let's see if I can be cohesive in how we break this down, because I just want to say to the audience that our conversations are always quite provocative, and like I feel that it's not the type of conversation I get to have with most people. So first, thank you for being open to diving into this arena with me, because I know that you and I have this passion for kind of illuminating the subject and really finding another conscious soul to like go into these dimensions that can be maybe triggering or just provocative, really. So let's see where we can, where we allow ourselves to go today.
Yes, these waters are where I live. So this is how I choose to live. I even, not to play on the word, and I know you used it in the way that you use it, but passion. I dismantle the word passion because this is my life. They're in the tantric realm. How you show up sexually is how you show up in the world. This is why they all go together. How you fight is how you show up sexually. It's a dynamic that connects. And so it's just allowing our minds to see there's no disconnect. They all connect, and how we can, and when we implement patterns, the way we do things, this is why we have to be so mindful, because we can disrupt this flow, this alignment, by incorporating non-constructive patterns to our life. So we have to always be keen to that.
Yeah, because I remember you were saying how you show up sexually is how you show up in the world, and that your sexuality informs your spirituality. And I wanted you to unpack that a bit more.
Well, what's the most powerful energy you possess? I mean, in meditation or mindfulness, we talk about manifestation. We talk about the words that we use. Okay, words are good, but they don't procreate. Your sexual organs procreate. They bring another universe to this universe and raise it as this whole concept is not even really explained through science. It's just a God-given or a higher power-given nature that we possess. And so what happens is we've only done a minimum, diving into what this is. In the tantric realm, we begin to realize how we can create the reality, the portal to the woman, the feminine. It goes through her birth canal to this plane. She's a portal. She's a door that opens up into this world. What else is she? You know, this is why we have to be keen to the idea that can everybody be a woman? You know, I'm sorry, I'm jumping right in, but like, so the
Go
thing is,
for it.
you
I
know,
love it.
this is what's sacred, and we cannot let this sacredity go. We can't let this be compromised. We have to realize the difference between what sex is. Sex is a science, and without those pluses and minuses, meaning those polarity poles connecting, well, you can't have that science of sex.
Yeah.
So this is how we start.
I know. Well, I love it because I think a lot of men don't understand the power of women and of the womb space and of the portal. I'm wondering, like, for the men listening, like, what would you hope that they would understand about women?
Well, we have this disconnect that women have been targeted. The medical world has targeted women would be the different hormones that they put in the foods, the different type of pharmaceuticals they got women taking. They've been targeted for a reason because of that power that they possess. So now in the integrative process, men have to give the woman the game. We have to strategize the way we relate to one another, meaning in that sense, give her an understanding how to relate to you. You know, give her an understanding of how to get you back online when you get, not if, but when you lose your mind, you lose your shit. You know, we have to begin to build functional relationships, and that needs to include her into your life space. Some of the things you need to share. I do have a saying about sharing everything, complete vulnerability, but like at least about 70–80% you got to play around with, because she needs to be included into your psyche. She needs to know how you function so she can work with you instead of against you when times get challenging. You know, I just learned something interesting, and I'll go through this. Maybe it's the perfect time to go through this. This concept called RBDSM. RDBSM. And so the R is relationships. So what kind of relationship you want to establish, right? Are you in a relationship already and you're just having an exploration of this new idea of a person? So, and women can have this conversation, they can lead this conversation as well. So B's, boundaries. What are your boundaries? What are you willing to go? Where are you willing to not go? What's your limitations? And what you'll find when you set the boundaries, now you can explore to those edges and realize, okay, maybe I want to go deeper. Maybe I want to pull back. D, desire. Desire is, okay, what do we desire from this outcome? What are we looking to engage in? Where are we looking to explore with this? And just basically have a conversation with that, right? And then in sex, safe sex. Are we going to have, I mean, this is adulting. I call this adulting conversation. You know, are we going to, do I need to have protection? Are we going to no protection? Are you on any kind of, birth control deal? Should I not come inside of you or not? I mean, we're going to be real here, right? And so
Yeah.
then okay, after we do this thing, what do you need from me? Are we going to you're going to be my lover, my partner? Do you need a hug when I see you? Or we need to be best friends when I see you? What do you need from me? Right? And so you have a clarity. In this clarification, we get to use, we get to incorporate, embark on another tool, and that's the way we converse with one another, the words we use. So now we don't have to be in that victim state. Now we don't have to be in, I wonder this, I wonder that. No, we can know. This is the Aquarian age. We don't have to believe anything. We can know. And so this is how we find ways to level up this thing for knowing. And so now what does that look like? You know, how does that empower you? And now you begin to release the trauma of past. You begin to heal, because now you can actually have a new experience without, okay, he has to make me feel safe. He has this perfect picture has to be incorporated before I can let go. Now you from the square one, because this is the first day conversation from square one. Now you have a level playing ground. And now that surface is complete. And that from that surface, we can build. And that's what the creativity is about. That's what that plus and that minus is about. Co-creating on this plane to do what? Solve problems.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'm just imagining how different our relationships would be if people had that conversation before they engaged and hooked up. Because I see with people kind of getting sexual too soon, it causes all this trauma, right? And then it just keeps breeding and creating more and more pain for people. And they don't, then they're coming to all these types of healing and integration work just to clear out where this conversation, what you just kind of organized for us very well, are BDSM. I'd like you to talk more about the current dating scene and what you're seeing and the things that happen sort of when you don't have this, or how you can get back on track, or what kind of advice you might have for someone who's struggling with this, feeling like they're not getting what they want or what they need out of their relationships, and how they might, I don't know, bring themselves back into balance.
It's just like a meditation, are you intentionally breathing, or are you unconsciously breathing? Are you breathing with the purpose? Are you breathing to heal? Are you breathing to explore, to process your edges, the experiences of life after what we've been through, right? So put that same methodology, to dating. Are you dating intentionally? What is your purpose for being, and what are you creating in this moment, right? Pull back the reins. You control this thing. We don't have to be the victim to circumstance anymore, right? Because how I look at the past and the things we went through in the past, I call those mistakes, because we didn't know. And to judge yourself so harshly on not knowing is not going to serve your ultimate purpose. It keeps you stuck in your story. This is why you don't know my story, no, you got to know my story. This happened and this happened. We're so stuck in the stories, and we get so stuck in the stories, we never move beyond the stories. So now we get an opportunity to transcend it, because it's energy. It's an energetic experience that happened. We can transform it. This is why the addiction teacher, or the person who had the addiction issue, is addiction teacher. The purpose who went through the various ailments or the various molestation begins to be the healing teacher, because we are the medicine ultimately. And your story is not just your story. What you'll find is everybody's story ultimately connects the same.
Yeah, I love that. Like the wounded healers, right? Like we come to this realizations through our own pain and suffering, right? And then we get to illuminate the way for ourselves as we work through it, and then share it with others.
Yeah, and the thing is that even when we even use the terminology pain and suffering, I know we're trying to translate the words through the words we have, but it's kind of hard. It feels heavy.
Right.
I call it, these are happenings. Life is challenging. Life is the rent we pay to be here is to, okay, I'm gonna go through the challenges. It's like I played professional sports, which can throw you off by hearing me speak, I guess, because I'm not a traditional linebacker. But it's the idea of playing a game such as violent as football and expecting not to get hit. Life is going to present that.
I love that. Yeah.
It's going to present that. Now get over that and fall down to master falling down. Fall down to master getting up. Fall down to master how I get up more efficiently in time, more efficient way. How do I breathe through the process? How do I fall down to get up, to jump up? To whatever life presents to me, I can respond. That's the ultimate practice.
Yeah, wow, well said. And I can imagine that when you got hurt, like for those of you who don't know, Keith, he was hurt in a on the field playing, and you were paralyzed, right, for a long time. Do you want to share the story a little bit so people understand where this deep insight and wisdom comes from? Because you've practiced this, you know this.
Yeah, I was playing my 8th season in pro football. I played 6 years in New Orleans. I was all pro at the position. All pro means the best of the best in that high level competitive market. And I was in Jacksonville my last season making a tackle, and I have this collision. I fall on my back, and I'm telling my body to get up. 100,000 people in the stands, millions watching, and my body's not responding. And I'm sitting there, I'm like telling myself, get up, get up. And in that gladiator mentality, I had pushed my levels. I had pushed the edges of life. I've come from a small city outside of Dallas called Garland, Texas, right? And I felt I could be great. I felt I could go and do some remarkable things in the world. And I did, I have, and I'm still doing it. And in that moment right there, I end up reality checks. There's no Superman bones, even though I thought I was Superman. I looked maybe like Superman, maybe you could say, but there's no Superman bones. We're human. We have the same bones. We hurt. And at that moment, I had my breaking point. And in that breaking point, I was flat. I was in that position in yoga we call Shavasana. And I was laying on my back, helpless. And I had never been vulnerable before in my life like that, right? And I didn't even know what to do. I was like, get me out of here, because this was embarrassing. I didn't even think about the detriment I had, happened or occurred to my body. I was just thinking, like, get me the hell out of here, because I do not want to be seen like this. And so it started my journey.
Wow. So you were laying there, and then they just had to like take you off on a stretcher, and you couldn't move for how long? You were basically, probably they told you couldn't walk again, right?
Well, they didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know what was going to happen. I wake up, basically, I'm in the hospital the next day. I can't move. They're afraid to move me. And I still have my most of my uniform. I have my pants and my shirt on, and I'm in this hospital, and I'm like, okay, time to move now. Where am I? And it's like I'm in a whole nother dream,
Wow.
And again, what dawned on me as well is that, the doctors, hey, you're supposed to have all the answers. Tell me about myself. When can I play again? And this is my mentality though. When can I play again? That's my mind. It's an interesting thought though, right? Because my mind didn't even think to the low vibration that I was in a compromised situation or I couldn't do something, because my mind was like, I can go beyond whatever. I was like, when can I play again? Which is so interesting, because this is where it comes into what the ego looks like.
Yeah.
The ego is a very interesting thing, because the ego got us here. It got us to the points that we're still on the planet and we're thriving as we are, right? And so what I had to do through my process and my journey, my 18-year journey at this point of developing that concept of that ego, and to add other additional tools to that ego that ultimately takes you into your femininity. I always say that the overdevelopment of a masculine takes you naturally into the feminine. When you develop the feminine, it takes you naturally into understanding more of the masculine. We're talking about developmental that we missed the opportunity with. No one ever taught us this. The people who brought us into the world were not taught this. And so this is why when I go into situations or we're talking about the trauma that we've been through, we want to create a space between us so we can create an opportunity to disassociate from those things. Not that we're denying it happened, but we can, when I say disassociate, now we can use those things to help others naturally. We can see those things about it that can naturally help others. We can teach it. We are the medicine. We're the first line of this medicine. And through human connectivity, we begin to express what that medicine looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And how long were you down? Like, long time, no? You had to totally rehabilitate yourself and learn to walk again, no?
Yeah. And the interesting thing is I had to go within, because I was in that place. I wanted everyone away from me. I had a person, I had a person come to my house who cooked for me. And I was basically isolated in my room. I didn't have at that time the relationship with my parents like I have now. I didn't have a rapport with my parents like I have now. So it's like, I didn't want to be seen in that vulnerable state just yet. And so I had everyone away. So I had my own, not knowing the terminology. You can call it a Vipassana. You can call it, for the most part, a dark room meditation. I didn't have books. I just had to close my eyes and go within and look at myself. And I'm like, okay, Keith, do you want to be on this planet? I knew prior, when I was playing in that 1.001% make it to that level to play in the National Football League, right? I attained that. I dominated that. I'm like, okay, well, Keith, you were not happy doing that. Do you want to live like that going forward? And the answer was no. Well, if you're going to choose to be here, well, what does that look like? I had to have this conversation with myself, and I had to tell the truth with myself. And so on the other side of that, I say, okay, this is what it looked like. I didn't want to think about perfection because I had been trained to be perfect from high school, college to the pros, you know? And I had, and I don't know if you know about pro football or sports in general, but you have so many critics who never played the game, don't know anything about the game. They just got a job as an editor in the paper. And they never, you know what I'm saying? They don't have any background with that besides
Yeah.
criticizing people. So I had people like, I'm like a crucifixion, criticize me. And as you get older and older in the game, you got more criticism. So I was used to that. So I'm like, okay, perfection, fuck that. I wanted to just be me. And whatever that evolved to was, we call that in esoteric world being. I just wanted to be, you know?
Mm.
And so that's the plight I took because I didn't want to kill myself. And I took that plight and I put myself on this amazing journey. I put myself on this journey to find some amazing teachers, masters, all their different crafts, whether it be nutrition with Dr. Sadie or Layla Africa, or Francis Cress Wilson in psychology, all these types of amazing people that I discovered, and I could ground and understand it. Even like people I pulled from the dead, Alan Watts. I feel Alan Watts was
It's great. Yeah.
my vocal teacher to learn how
Uh-huh.
to overpronounce my words. I listened to him so much with that British accent, got me
Yeah.
overpronouncing my words. You know, teachers like Osho, J. Krishnamurti, and I brought all that into a spindle of things to what I've created in my own life, and I
Yeah.
combine all that together, and I do what I do in the world, and it's been pretty
Beautiful.
amazing. Yes.
Amazing. Well, you're just a testament to like going within and doing the work. I'm curious, when you were hurt like that, were you married? Were you in relation?
No, I
Or
wasn't married. No, I wasn't married. Actually, after I got out of that situation, started, getting my senses back and my feelings, I thought because I was raised in the Christian home, my father's a preacher and so forth. I was raised in this way, so I was like, "Oh, this is God telling me, maybe I need to get," because that original programming it pulls at you, you
yeah,
know.
for sure.
And so your mind is grounded into this programming. So it's like, okay, maybe I need to be married. Maybe I need to, have kids. I've done a crazy life already. Like maybe God is telling me something. If you believe the story, you say the story, you believe it, boy, it will rule you. And that's where I was at that moment. And I started, going into that spindle. And I had a son through that experience. I was engaged, but I realized that wasn't the plight that I wanted to take. And my son is now 15 years old. And we're building a healthy relationship. And, it moved into the, like, what about that yoga thing again? But I did go down that journey of like, okay, this is what I need to do. But I realized that this was not. And I had to make a decision. Life is about so many decisions that we have to make. And we try to make the best ones we can.
Oh God, yeah. And so being a pro athlete and living this, outrageous life of mastery that you've been on, I imagine that it had a strong impact and influence on your sex life and your choices of relationships, because when you're living that kind of lifestyle, you get to create whatever you want, right? You're like living in a different realm, I think, than the ordinary folk. So as a creator of your lifestyle, what kind of relationship dynamic did you choose, and what was your sort of relating trajectory, and can you share like how you moved through that, or what you've come to at this point?
Actually, what's interesting, being a virgin until I was in college as a freshman, I learned semen retention really quickly. because I don't know what I was listening to, but something I listened to, and it talked about life force energy. And I was like, and there's a whole mythology about, having sex before, really more or less ejaculating before you play a game, because you lose a lot of your testosterone, your prana, your chi. And so that concept hit me. And so I learned semen retention.
For
I was
high
trying to,
performance sports. I love
yes,
it.
yes. Because
Tantric
I
arts.
didn't want my sex life to interrupt my physical performance in sports, because it meant that
Yeah,
much to me. Yeah.
yeah, makes sense.
And then what you'll learn in the athletic world, the sports world, I mean, women are all over the place, and they flock to you. And so actually, in my classes, I even talk about, my first two experiences were, two women, another man was involved in one situation. It was like crazy. And I had to jump into the situation as if, I knew what I was doing. I knew everything,
Right.
because I had the
An
expectation of
expert.
myself and the
Right.
expectation of others that I had to be the best of the best. And so that put me on that level. And I'm a Leo on top of that. So it put me on that track of performance. And so that's how I saw it. It was an additional aspect of performance. Because again, the criticism, they're gonna go and tell their friends, like, you can't have that kind of bad press on you, So it was like one of those things, yeah.
So you had to figure out how to be a good lover.
I had to figure it out. Yes.
Uh-huh.
And I think I did okay.
We're gonna have to interview the ladies next.
I think I got good Yelp reviews, but hey, we'll see.
You have Yelp reviews for your dating profile.
Yeah.
So you were engaged, but you weren't married. You didn't go the route. And then I remember at one point there was a number of ladies that were your crew.
Mm-hmm. But even before that, though, in New Orleans, I had a girlfriend in New Orleans, and I had a girlfriend in Dallas, where I was from. I was always that kind of, I don't know, maybe my mother kind of spoiled me, and I felt I needed like special attention. And so even as I had those relationships, I had other relationships outside of those, but those were the ones that grounded me. For some reason, I had an idea of strategizing myself, because I knew myself, or I kind of learned myself, and I didn't want to have myself be the addiction to my desires, and I wanted to control that. And so I kind of I'm a chess player, so I always kind of try to position myself, and I talk about this in my upcoming book. I try to position myself for the primary opportunity to win, and that's really to stay grounded in the intention. At that time, being a sports person, sports was my main thing, and I wanted to achieve the highest peak in sports.
To learn more about our life-enhancing courses and transformational retreats, visit knowtheself.com.